second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
This is camouflage. You'll hurt more than you've ever been burned.
The clerk said he had a bruise on his face.
I have a very unhealthy obsession with John Malkovich.
I want to go into space.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I hate the way you drive my car. I hate it when you stare. I hate your big dumb combat boots and the way you read my mind. I hate you so much it makes me sick. It even makes me rhyme.
You think that's air you're breathing now?
Do you understand? It's my head, Schwartz. It's my head!
You want to get out of here so bad, then go. Go!
Yeah, I'll go! Yeah, I'll go!
Go!
I'll go! And I'll be gone forever! I won't even look back!
Dr. Wygon's deposition will be part of this record. And I'm going to take my witness's testimony, whether the hell you like it or not.
It's all dark until the 10th floor. That's the legal department. That's where they fuck with my life.
I don't see anything. Are you sure they're there?
No, he passes the puck to Beatty. Beatty scores off a great pass.
Welcome to German Sick Fetish Video. If you are under 18, do not...
Oh my God!
Click it off, dude, click it off!
Then I'd say, tie them sticks in a bundle, try to break that. Of course they couldn't. Then I'd say, that bundle, that's family.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time.
So Simon, for the last week and a half or so, I've been listening to this audio book called Best Movie Year Ever, How 1999 Blew Up the Big Screen. Now, this is a book that came out maybe about 5 years ago now, roughly thereabouts. I think it was slightly pre-pandemic. I know I bought it. I've literally got it sitting there on my shelf, never opened. But I thought, you know what? I'm walking around. I've got this audiobook here. I'm going to give it a go. Press play, and I have not had more fun listening to an audiobook in some time. The premise of this one is basically it just goes through 1999, a year that a lot of people say is the best movie year ever, and justifiably so. As you go through the year, like there's just a whole bunch of really great movies, but it just came at a time at the end of a decade where I just don't think there were really like a lot of greats, particularly in the back end of the 90s. And then suddenly something shifted in the general mood of Hollywood where people just got really, really big and bold and were greenlighting movies that were not necessarily financial sort of safe bets, but certainly had some interesting sort of artistic merit to it. And people were just giving it a go. You kind of look at... the film I'm going to talk about in a moment is the very sort of typical example of it. But there was something in the water at the time. This book came out just before 1999. So in 98, there was a book by Peter Biskind, very well known, called Easy Riders, Raging Bulls. And this was a book that looked at looked at that 1970s period where you had films like Easy Rider and Raging Bulls, which upset the Hollywood system. Films got a little bit more sort of independently minded in spirits. And so it sort of moved away from the sort of big Hollywood programmers of the time and really defined the 70s. It seemed as though the end of the 90s were looking for that same spirit. And this is kind of how we got this really interesting year. But you go through that year of films, and look, I'm going to rattle off a couple of titles, Simon, but feel free to throw in a few more.
Well, let me just say that one thing that when you put this intermission forward, I was very excited about it because I remember what a big year 1999 was. But in researching it, I went through and we're only talking about, I've got a couple of Australian ones, but we're only talking about really the American and a couple of British films in the list here. I found 45 films that have had lasting cultural or or certainly critical legacy worth mentioning. So obviously we're not going to run through all 45, but there's some extraordinary stuff in there that and it's interesting that it's compared to the 70s, because the 70s were like a really seismic shift when the old Hollywood died off, and on the back of Easy Rider and Bonnie and Clyde, this new wave of filmmaking and this new adventurous, fearless sort of filmmaking and audience embrace of this new kind of movie storytelling was happened. With 1999, it almost became kind of, in hindsight, it almost became kind of a last hurrah. There's this amazing collection of films that came out, and then kind of the Hollywoodization, the blockbuster mentality took over again, and these sort of films were, and we could get into a very big debate about why these, or not even debate, just discussion about why these sort of films aren't made anymore, and if they are, they turn up on only a few screens or on small screens on the streamers. 1999 was just a real line in the sand collection of movies. It's amazing.
Yeah, so this is, sorry, very quickly, just a personal thing. So I was 19 during the great year of 1999, or for half of the year at least.
Peak.
This was
peak.
Yeah, well, that's kind of it. Like, it was sort of peak movie watching. I've seen so many of these movies as I start going through the listing of 1999 films. I've seen so much because I was at the cinema all the time. And I kind of think that it maybe ruined it for me, because like I kind of feel a really hollow experience when I feel about cinema from the last 20 odd years, because it doesn't really quite meet that peak of where I was really being exposed to like this great period of movies right as I was coming into my own. But look, Simon, this is some of the films that are there, and I'm going to skip the one which is going to be the subject of my chat in a moment. But this is the year of Eyes Wide Shut. This is the year of Fight Club. This is the year of The Matrix, of Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. What else? Blair Witch Project is probably one of the big things. Fight Club, that film where they see dead people. You've got like a whole bunch of amazing films, but even just like the generic programmers. The Virgin Suicides is another one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, this was the year where Sixth Sense and Notting Hill was also in. American Beauty was this year, 1990. Well,
The Insider.
Malkovich. The Insider is one of that was going to be, and I even found that in the what we call programmers and in the B movie range, there's things like Lake Placid and Deep Blue Sea, and Bowfinger, which have Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. She's All That. These are movies that may have seemed kind of not throwaway titles, but lesser releases at the time that have grown in popularity. This was also the year I was really surprised to find that Sleepy Hollow, The Green Mile, and Stuart Little all came out in the same year. It also had David Lynch's incredible movie The Straight Story, which was a wonderful, wonderful film, and arguably the best American animated film ever made in The Iron Giant. So, and another great animated film in South Park. So there's an amazing collection of films.
Can I throw you out just a couple more titles? Go, Stir of Echoes, Galaxy Quest, Existence.
Run Lola Run. Man on
Boys
the Moon.
Don't Cry.
I don't want to tread on each other's toes here, because I'm cautious I'm going to say something that might be one of your films, but there's a bunch here that and Boys Don't Cry, which Hilary Swank went over for. Incredible, talented Mr. Ripley. God, I looked up and down the list of films that was here, and in the middle of all this, the worst James Bond movie, The World Is Not Enough. So there was plenty to like.
I don't know, it's the worst one, but it's up there. I'll give it that.
Yeah, it's up there.
So
all
Simon,
right, well, let's drill down on maybe our two.
Well, what I wanted to do was I wanted to identify what is the best movie from each of our perspectives from 1999. So it sounds like you've got a couple, but I'm going to throw it to you first. Simon, what is, in your opinion, the best of 1999?
Okay, I am looking across this list, and there are so many films that I have so much love for. Are we choosing two? Are we going 1-2 or?
No, I was going to choose one movie. I mean, I can do a second one quite easily because it's an amazing year.
Okay. Well, it's, for me, the best movie and the movie that's lived longest in my memory from this period is Alexander Payne's Election with Reese Witherspoon, Matthew Broderick. It was one of the smartest, funniest comedies to come out. And I know in saying that I'm overruling things like Three Kings. I'm overruling Magnolia, which I think is an American masterpiece and easily
Fight Club.
Best performance. Fight Club wasn't a film that I warmed to at the time, but I've come to realize is a genuine masterpiece and subversive American filmmaking. But for me, Election and Reese Witherspoon's performance in that, and the brutal satire that it unleashed on American audiences at a really, well, I say volatile political time. It's only become more volatile since then. But I love Election and continue to love Election. But feel a little bit sick in my tummy that I'm overriding Spike Lee's Summer of Sam or American Pie or Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead, which is an incredible film. Any Given Sunday, good Lord. Yeah, but I'm going to go with Election.
I mean, I was convinced you'd go with George Lucas's The Phantom Menace, but, you know,
yes, well,
surprises.
You'd be wrong.
Look, one of the fun things about 1999 is you've got films like Fight Club, but then you've also got another film, which is almost the exact same movie, just from a different perspective, Office Space.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're a fan.
Yeah, I rewatched it again the other night based off this, and boy, does that film hold up in a way that it probably shouldn't.
Wow, see, of all of these films, that's the one that I have a little bit of trouble sort of connecting with. I know that it's adored by so many people and by a certain generation, namely, I mean, we're the same generation, but sort of you're younger, and I've tried to watch Office Space a few times and come away fairly chuckle free, but I understand that it's adored by so many people.
I mean, my heart just wants to say, I mean, you've never really worked in an office like that, Simon, but also I think I loved that movie before I worked in offices.
Sure.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, that film, I actually remember seeing that movie. I went and saw it on a Thursday night, the opening night. I was the only person in the cinema, and then I was no longer in the cinema about 2 days after that.
That's right, yeah. It came and went very quickly, had no audience during its theatrical release, but found love, obviously, on home video in its waning years later on. So, boy, just looking down the list here, even teen stuff, and I've mentioned She's All That, but Cruel Intentions with Ryan Felipe and another Reese Witherspoon film, it was an extraordinary film. I was legitimately shocked that films like this collection of films all came out on the same calendar year. It really was an extraordinary moment in time, and I will be checking out that. I didn't know that book existed, and I will be checking that out. There is an argument to be made for...
Speaking of teen films, Simon, I think I mentioned Go a moment ago, but also 10 Things I Hate About You was this year.
Yeah, I know. That's extraordinary. The 1999 best overall year ever for movies, a case can be made. For my generation, the best American summer of movies is often considered to be 84, which was Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Temple of Doom, and so on and so forth. That was considered a bit of a landmark moment. And there will be older listeners who say that some of those great golden years of Hollywood, when the likes of Magnificent Ambersons and Casablanca all came out the same year, there could be argument to be made for that. It wasn't a great year for Australian films. In researching this intermission bit, I had a look down of all the Australian films released in 1999. There was Erskineville Kings, which sort of introduced the world to Hugh Jackman, but nobody really saw that film. The only real sort of notable film that sort of launched careers and travelled the world a little bit was Rose Byrne and Heath Ledger in Two Hands. But apart from that, it wasn't a huge year for Aussie movies.
Yeah. Anyway, let's pivot a little bit and go back to my big... Oh, sorry, I just looked at 1984 movies. You got the original David Lynch Dune that year. Supergirl came out. Never-ending Story. Footloose. The Stop Making Sense doco. Terminator.
84 was a big year. Yep.
Yeah. The film 1984. Buckaroo Banzai came out that year.
Oh, I know. Yes, I'm copping a lot of black.
Oh, wait a sec. Top Secret.
Yeah, 84 was a huge year.
Yeah. Tightrope, which is a film that I like, but I think probably doesn't necessarily hold up for a lot of audiences. It's,
Clint Eastwood one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clint was in a bit of a rut at that stage. He was kind of churning out some of the same stuff over, and this was pre-Unforgiven, pre his rebirth. So he was sort of working over.
That's an interesting one. It's
breaking the coals over his Dirty Harry persona by this stage.
In that one, he plays a cop who very actively frequents prostitutes.
Really?
Yeah. It's a lot darker than you remember it. But anyway, oh my god, the Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure came out in 1984. Classics. But anyway, Simon,
told you.
We're getting distracted. Yep. Oh, Paris, Texas was that year. Jeez. Okay, back to 1990. Oh my god, Police Academy, the first one.
Dan, focus.
Focus. Sorry, 1999. Okay, here was my film. You tipped it a moment ago. We came so close to you not mentioning it, but Magnolia is my film of 1999. And I don't know, I kind of feel like Magnolia is largely kind of becoming a bit of a forgotten movie to a certain degree. And yeah, it shocks me why, because to me, like, this is the best Paul Thomas Anderson film by a long shot. And he's got some really great movies, but to me, this is just a incredible feature. This is absolutely the height of indulgence. He was, and they referenced the story in the 1999 book. But basically, he was trying to work out what he was going to do straight after the success of Boogie Nights. And he ended up having a conversation with Francis Ford Coppola. And he said, look, you'll never have this level of power again in your career. Even if the second film you make is a huge success, you will never be given the ability to be as indulgent as you want with a second feature. So just go for it. So he goes for it and makes Magnolia, which is the absolute height of indulgence. This is a drama which is, I mean, there's no sort of big moment in it except for like emotional sort of human beats, except for one moment, which is, can we give away this? Like, people know Magnolia by now, don't they, Simon?
Many don't, but it's been around long enough. If you haven't watched it yet, it's on you. So yeah, no, give it away. Spoiler away.
No, exactly. 2/3 of the way through the movie, as you've dealt with some incredible human drama through it, suddenly the film just ends up being interrupted by a rain of frogs. This is something which, and when I say rain of frogs, like, this is an cute, adorable moment. This is a moment where literally Los Angeles is being pummeled with frogs. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of frogs. I don't know if you've ever been driving out in a storm of frogs, Simon, but from what I've seen in this film, it doesn't play out well for a lot of vehicles in it. But like, there's also the sort of indulgence here.
There's also the extraordinary moment where the characters sort of break into, not so much break into song, but start mouthing the words along with the Amy Mann song. And it's you know, it's interesting that you make those comments about Francis Ford Coppola, because this is very much in that, Magnolia is very much in that the ballpark that I love, which is the second film Folly. And, you know, we've often talked about Spielberg's 1941. We've often talked about, you know, when you have the keys to the city and you're the most successful young director coming off a debut or coming off an early hit, and they say you can do whatever you want. Well, Paul Thomas Anderson absolutely did that with Magnolia. It almost worked in terms of winning over the Academy. I'll never remember being as angry at an Oscar snub as when Tom Cruise got beaten in the supporting actor category by a boring and lame Michael Caine in The Cider House Rules, which is a movie that has faded from everybody's memory. But and you know, so I was kind of upset when that happened. But yeah, just the cast in this, the incredible Jason Robards, Julianne Moore, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman. So yeah, Magnolia would have been my number 2. That's what I was going to decide, whether it was Election or Magnolia. I've watched Election more than Magnolia, which is the only reason I went with Election.
Look, I really love Election. I couldn't go past Magnolia, though, and I was really concerned you'd pick Magnolia as well. But you mentioned a couple of names here. Let me just talk through some of this cast here as well. You mentioned Tom Cruise, Luis Guzman's in it, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Philip Baker Hall, Ricky Jay, William H. Macy, Alfred Molina, Julianne Moore, John C. Reilly, Jason Robards, obviously, Henry Gibson, Felicity Huffman, and then it's just a whole bunch of other familiar character actors right through this thing. Like, it is just an incredible tour de force of cinema. And if you are enthusiastic about movies and you've never seen Magnolia, like, come on, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, exactly. It was a great year. 1999, best movie year ever, How 1999 Blew Up the Big Screen. It's Brian Raftery's book. The actual audiobook's narrated by actor George Newbern from Adventures in Babysitting and other stuff, I'm sure.
His notable title is voicing Superman in the 90s animated show, but yeah, I do think of him fondly from Adventures in Babysitting.
Wasn't he Kimberly Williams' husband in the Father of the Bride movies? Wasn't
Correct.
that him as well? Yeah, okay, all right. I'm a big George Newbern fan, apparently more than I realized I was.
Eventually, Simon, you find your tribe, and today I think that both of us found George Newbern tribe.
All righty, good intermission. That was fun. Dan Barrett,